guys, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about what is better, Europe or the United States of America, in my opinion. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because if you go back a little bit in my channel, I recently went 2.5 months backpacking across Europe, visited 10 countries, 19 cities, and then of course I live and was born in the United States of America. And along with that trip, I've also been growing up all my life going to Europe, going to Spain. My family's actually from Spain. My grandma's uncle's mom, everyone is from there. And so I have a lot of experience with Europe. I've probably been to around 15 countries in Europe or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I've been going there my whole entire life. And of course, I have the United States part of my family and life as well. So let's just get into it. Okay, so we'll start off with the good things about the United States of America, since I was born and raised here. And I will just say, I think the US gets a lot of flack for being a horrible country, being a bad country. But I feel like if people only really sat down and looked at the differences, they would already be like, the US isn't that bad. Like, maybe you don't love the policies or whatever, but it's not like a horrible place. Like, some people act like we live in like World War Z here in America, and it's very strange to me. Starting off, in my opinion, the biggest difference between US and Europe is that the US, there's way more opportunity for money, to make money, way more opportunity in general career-wise. I think the US, if you are trying to make it, it doesn't matter where you come from, what family you were born into, what your economic status is, you can become a millionaire in the United States of America by working hard. And that's not to say that, of course, people start at different places. Like, if this is the start line, some people might start here and others here and others way back here. But in the US, we have opportunity. For example, in Europe, in a lot of places, you kind of go to school for one thing and then you fit in this category, and there's not much room to be an entrepreneur. It is possible, of course, but not like it is here in the United States. You can start a business here for $5, for $0. It's much, much easier to get into something entrepreneurial here in the United States than it is in other places in Europe. And of course, that is a blanket statement, but in my opinion, from what I've seen from friends, family, people that I've met that live in Europe, they all tell me that the United States is crazy in terms of how far you can get opportunity-wise. The second thing kind of plays into the first part a little bit, but the moving out age in the United States is much, much lower, so you have a greater feeling of independence because you get to leave your family, and it's just cheaper to get out of your family's house than it is in Europe. And I'm just going to give an example real quick, and it kind of ties into the opportunity part that I was talking about. But for example, I was recently in Spain and I was talking to my cousins, and of course I get to talk about money and everything like that. They asked me about my life, and she said they're going to be able to move out of their parents' house until probably around 30 when they're married and everything is settled. Probably around 30 years old is like the average age of Spaniards to moving out of their house, just because of economic factors, not being able to pay for your own apartment, rent, all the living expenses that you need. Whereas here, most people that I know move out of high school, and if not out of high school, they move out in their early to mid 20s. So you gain independence so much sooner. Going along with that as well, the United States and taxes, and of course there's some places that have high taxes, but for the most part, you get freedom to choose. For example, if you live in California and don't want to pay those extraneous amount of taxes, you can move to Florida. Whereas when you live in Europe, the country that you live in is the country that you live in, and their taxes are set up so that more people get healthcare, more people get all these other things, but because of that, you get taxed a lot, which makes it much, much more difficult to actually make a lot of money because you do have to pay a ton of taxes there. Whether you guys think that's a good thing or not politically, I'm not going to give my opinion or not, but my point is that it's much, much easier to make more money because of those things. Another thing that I love about the US is that we have a lot of diversity here, and I know this might be a controversial opinion, but I feel like if you go anywhere else in the world, you will see that the United States is very, very diverse. You go to other countries and you only see one type of person, maybe two types of people, but the US, we have diversity of thought, diversity diversity of culture, very diverse in every way, whereas when you go to another place, in my experience, there's very similar cultures, very similar people, very similar opinions, and I think diversity of thought and diversity of people has really led the United States to become a leader in technology and advancements in science. We are leaders in the world because of how diverse and amazing the United States population is, and I think that that is something that you would miss out in Europe, because it is very much one culture, one country, in my opinion. Now moving on to the things I love about Europe, because guys, I love Europe so dearly. I'm not going to tell you which one's my favorite, but let's get into the good things about Europe. So first of all, playing into what I just said about the culture, because it is one culture, the culture is so strong in Europe. You can just feel the culture in when you're in a country in Europe, just through the food and the people and the language and the festivals, and just everything that they have is just so one people, which I think is really great, that everyone is so united. Of course, that is opposing what I just said, but I do think there's something nice about having your own culture and songs and music and all these things that everyone in the country relates to and loves and thinks is amazing, and just you can just feel the culture, and it's just so absolutely beautiful to be immersed in other cultures. I think it's one of the reasons I love traveling so much, is that you just get to experience the most unique moments with these people that are just so in love with their countries, and just the way they live as people is just incredible and beautiful to see. Next thing is the freedom for travel. Of course, everyone knows the EU, but even apart from that, Europe is centrally located, so it's so nice, because if you want to go to Asia, it's not that far. If you want to go to Africa, it's not that far. Of course, you have all the countries in Europe and amazing train systems and travel things that allow you to move freely between all those countries. It is basically, I think, what I would call a traveler's dream as far as location, because again, you are right sort of in the middle, where you can fly across the US or South America, and it's not too long of a plane ride, but you can also go down to Africa, you can also go north, you can also go east, and everything is kind of centrally located, which I think is amazing, and you can definitely see it. When I was in Europe, every European I talked to or had made friends with always talked about how they had gone to many different countries and gone to this country or that country and seen this culture and that one, but here in the US it's much harder because we are so isolated in a big landmass. I find that a lot of people in the US don't travel as often because of that. We more so can get from state to state the way they can get from country to country, and I think that is a huge plus of living in Europe. Of course, another one is that it is cheaper there, and it depends. Of course, if you live in Europe and maybe you have a lower income, you might not think so, but if you live in the US and then you make a ton of money and go to Europe, you'll find that Europe is oftentimes cheaper. For example, there were a few times where I was getting a beer in another country and it was like €1, and here sometimes you can pay $6, $7 for a beer just because things are just so crazy expensive. And of course, depends where in the US you go. But I find generally that I would spend much less money in Europe than I would have if I were traveling around the United States. So I would say overall it is cheaper. Of course, this is just a little one I'm going to throw in there. I think the architecture in Europe is to die for. I think there's no more beautiful place than Europe. It is absolutely insane. You go to a city in the United States and you're like, oh, brick buildings, nice, like concrete, yay. You go to a city in Europe and you almost enter another world. It is absolutely incredible, so amazing. And I even had someone say that they didn't realize why people visited cities until they went to Europe, because their cities are just a work of art, literally, in my opinion, in comparison to the US. So that's just a quick one. Along with that, I also want to mention the food. The diet is so much cleaner than here in the United States. They live much longer there in Europe because there's a lot of walking, which I love. Walkable cities, they're mostly in Europe, and that is so good for your health to be walking all the time. They eat super clean. Everything is natural, organic, cooked at the home. Fast food isn't as big, you know. The food is really important to them. It's part of their culture, and I love how healthy they are there as a society. It's just, you see people riding bikes all day, every day, walking to the grocery stores instead of driving, walking to their friends' houses or the cafes, or just cooking their food as a family, and I think that that is also one of the greatest things about it. Not to mention, I think that the people in Europe are so nice. I love the culture of being nicer to strangers and people that you don't know. They're just very giving and nice, genuine people that I think sometimes in the US you miss out on. Now, I know this was kind of a long video, but that's just the tip of the iceberg in my opinion. I have so many more things I could bring up that I think are good, and then I could also go into the negatives of each in my opinion. But overall, which one is better, Europe or the United States of America? In my opinion, it is better to grow up in the United States of America, make a lot of money, and then live out the rest of your life in Europe. I think that that would truly be amazing for me, is to have the opportunities to chase my dreams and go for what I want here in the United States, whether that's making money for me, my family, my friends, just help out the people I love financially, because I think it's much easier to do here, and then live out my life, raise a family. I think all those things would be amazing to do in Europe. I just think that you need to be financially successful first before moving there, because I do think that it is really, really important, not for everyone, but for a lot of people, to be able to afford the life that they want. So I think it's easier to do that in the US, but ultimately I would love to live in Europe. I just think it is one of the most amazing. I'm so grateful to be able to have been there a ton and just connect with my culture, my family who's from there. I just adore Europe so much. So the goal in the end of my life would definitely be to end up in a little community out in Europe and live exactly like I see most of the people out there live, healthy and happy and social and all these things. Let me know down below, what do you guys think is better, the US or Europe? I think it's a pretty controversial topic, especially nowadays with the way people feel about the US. Let me know your opinion, and again guys, don't get mad at me, it's just my opinion. Everyone's allowed to have an opinion, and that's one of the beautiful things about this life, is that everybody is different. So leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to my channel, please hit the notification bell so you guys can see every time that I upload a brand new video, and let me know if you have any suggestions on anything that you want me to make or anything of that sort. And yeah guys, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.